Welcome to Punch Keys Podcast. I'm Poppy Minix, your co-host, bringing you blunt talk for the fiction novelist.
And I'm Cass Kay, your other writerly co-host. If you love to ramble about writing and need a tribe, you found us.
Are you ready? We're uncorking now. Let's talk about punching those keys.
Punch Keys, living it up. We are here to talk and babble and drink.
We are so here. I love this subject. I'm super excited about this subject tonight.
Okay, guys, let's have a real talk. So, Poppy has had this subject on the docket since season 1.
Yes, I have.
And Cass has been, trying to avoid talking about it because I just don't understand why it's even a topic and what there is to say. And so, Poppy's enthusiasm is going to carry us tonight. Woohoo!
I'm psyched. I'm
not.
Super excited about this, about all of the topics.
Well, then tell us what we're talking about.
We're talking about pen names and social media. Yeah, I know, right?
Joyous.
Like the greatest. We go beyond character naming at this point. We name ourselves, and this is like the greatest day.
Or it's just another day.
Yeah.
But, that could be a thing. Okay, so I want to start off with, I think a lot of people feel the way you do. I think a lot of people are super pumped about picking out a pen name. A lot of people are super pumped about creating their social media accounts and all of that stuff. And I want to say that if you haven't finished a first draft of a novel, it's not time.
Put on the brakes. Yeah.
It is not time. If you're just really excited to get into the writing community, just do it as a personal account. Don't worry about pen names and all that stuff because there's so much you find out in being able to write a novel from beginning to end and getting a first draft out and editing and all that stuff where you learn about what kind of writer you are. And that information is very applicable because what happens is when you start all this stuff we're going to go into, you're basically starting a small business.
Mm-hmm.
And so you need to understand the foundation of that business's, their objectives, their mottos, what they stand for, what the core is that people know what they're getting when they get into this business. And if you haven't finished a first draft, I'm sorry, but you don't have that yet.
I know that when I was starting writing, I just started writing. I mean, that was that I just did. And granted, I have stayed with that. I started writing a paranormal romance. I didn't even know what it was called. I just started writing. But I've also dabbled in sci-fi, and I was like, maybe I'm going to be a serious sci-fi writer. And then it turned into romance. And then it was like, I'm going to be a short story writer. And I was like, I don't know how the crap to do a short story. So, you just don't realize what you are yet until you actually start throwing out words and continue to complete things.
I thought I was an epic fantasy writer. And then I thought I was this is going to make you laugh, a romantic fantasy writer.
Okay, though. Hold up. You were just looking into the future, woman. You're just looking into the future.
And then I thought I was hardcore urban fantasy. I'm like, that's it. This is my jam. This is who I am. This is who I'm going to be. And then I discovered dark fantasy and horror.
There you go.
And my life is complete. They had me at hello.
They had me at, I will kill you. Yep. This is mine.
You had me with that big gleaming knife. So excited. What are you going to do with it? What are you going to do?
Yeah, exactly.
But I hardcore believed, beginning as epic fantasy all the way, then I hardcore believed I was going to be romantic fantasy. Each step of the way, I thought I knew who I was, and I was just developing as a writer. And knowing these things, sure, you can write all of those things, but there's probably going to be a similar thread through all of your stuff. I can write a romantic fantasy. It's going to be dark fantasy. There's always going to be a dark thread, a horror thread in everything I do. There's always going to be a splash of humor and modern world. I am not an epic fantasy person as much as I thought I was because I love to world build and I love creating these magical worlds, but I like to modernize them. And so you find these things out about yourself. So if you haven't finished your first draft, you can still keep this stuff in mind. You can still network and meet friends, and it never hurts to know more. Keep listening. But also go finish your fucking draft.
Go finish your draft. And we've been on forums for writers for long enough to where we've seen a lot of people come in and be super excited about being a writer. Because being a writer is awesome. I mean, you're here. Like, we know this. Being a writer is just like the greatest thing ever, right? But it also,
Or the hardest.
or the hardest.
Or most
No, it's the
infuriating.
best. Because when you're starting with writing, it's just the best. So that you don't realize that there's like a process, and it takes persistence, and it takes attention, and it takes time. And so, like, a lot of times people will come in and they'll be 3,000 words into a draft. Okay, guys, that's like a first chapter. They'll be partially into their first chapter and be like, oh my God, I'm going to start a website. I'm going to do social media. I'm going to start like being friends with agents. And it's like, dude, go write your book, because like that's where your important time is. Go, do not put these hours and hours and hours into like creating. And people will say it's never too early to start this. Oh, I completely disagree. It is too early to start this if you only have a chapter in your very first book that you've ever written ever.
Well, it's a time management thing too. Let's be realistic. When you start doing the webpage, when you start doing social media, when you start building a platform and a base for this new business that you're basically starting, it takes time. And to maintain it and build it, it takes time. Do you have enough time to do that and write your novel right now as you're starting? And if you're picking between the two,
yeah, go write your novel first. Go get excited about your novel, not about being an author. The way that you are going to be an author is by finishing your work. So that is like the major point. It's not because you have a Twitter account that's friends with a bunch of authors. It's not because you have a website that says you're an author. It's by finishing a draft, completing your draft, editing your draft, and sending it out, and then you become an author. You're a writer because you write, not because you have social media.
Right. Right. See that little pun there? Right.
So go write.
Right. I will say though, as anything that we do, there's no like hard, have to do it this way. So like if you have already started these things and you don't have a finished first draft, you can mold them and adjust things, and just make sure that whatever you're doing, you are putting the bulk of your time into your writing and developing as a writer. I don't think it's going to hurt you to dabble in things and to figure things out. Yeah. There's no end of the world, no matter what path you take and what order you do things. But it's really hard to be an author if you don't have a book.
And like when you get excited about writing and when you start writing, go write. I mean, I have a lot of first drafts, right? And that's going to help me out tremendously. But I don't know what I would do if I put everything out there and really focus all my time on social media like I do now, because I'm marketing at this point and I'm doing things and I put a ton of time into social media. And I think that would have probably distracted me a whole lot in my first year of just pouring out work. And granted, those works are things going to be rewritten, but they're there and I have them. And so being able to have multiple books and being able to have stuff, if you're going to be an author, it is wonderful to have a book. And some people's paths are far slower than others. And some people are just blurt out everything and it's awesome. And that will come with time. Social media and author, like your books, come with time. Everything takes time. But actually having the product to put behind you as your branding is important.
So let's talk about that. We're going to assume you have a book, you have several books, you have half a book, you've never written, but you still want to do this. Okay, cool. Well, we're here with you. So let's talk about picking a pen name.
And the reason we're doing this pen name first is because when you're choosing your social media, one of the best things you can do for yourself, and I'm just patting myself on the back right now, is to like have your pen name and have all of your handles, which is all of your social media names, one name. So if you're using your real name, then cool, use your real name, but you're going to have to clean up your social media accounts if you had personal ones beforehand. Because nobody wants to know about your sister. Well, they might want to know about your sister's baby, but I bet your sister would not be thrilled that her baby is all over your social media to a bunch of public people who they don't know. So you have to be careful with personal accounts and making sure that they're cleaned up and correct. If you have really cutting remarks about politics on your personal account and you decide to just keep your name and open your social accounts publicly for everyone to see that you're an author, hopefully you're writing political pieces or you need to clean that up. So you're going to have to go through and do a whole lot of deleting to kind of make it to where this is a business, guys. Like this is a business. So when you're branding yourself, that's what you do. You create a business.
Well, I think also too, when you're looking at the base of followers you have in social media and the people that you network with, the algorithms for this stuff builds off of what you've done, right? And there's algorithms are going to affect everything we're talking about. But social media is the same, where it looks at what activity you've had, what type of people
Mhm.
you're friends with. That's what it feeds to you, and that's what it links to you. So if I am a Alaskan fisherman who goes out on the ship and all of my networking is with other fishermen and everyone, and then I'm writing a young adult spy thriller set in the jungle, my social media is going to be confused when I start pushing that. It's going to keep giving me people to follow and showing my stuff to people who are not who I'm trying to target to buy my book.
That's not your audience.
You're building it's basically like, picture there's an artificial intelligence person here. Like, you've got Data from Star Trek. He's there behind this. He's in your computer. Data is in your computer. Oh my God, my life is so much better now thinking that Data is in my computer. Okay, but Data is in your computer, and he's building this network and web of all of these ways that how he's gonna show your content and to who, how often, what he's gonna show you, and you want to build it so that it's in alignment with the genre that you're writing, with the topics that you're writing about, networking and supporting other people within the industry. That's going to be a part of it as well. And so to build that net properly and that base so that that algorithm is right from the start, there's some funky results if you try to transform a personal account and then build on that. So make sure, it's a small business.
It is.
Start, pick a name. If you want to use your name, that's fine. If you want to create a whole new name, that's fine. If you want to use a family name, a middle name, a mother's maiden name, whatever you want to do, that's fine. Look at what you're publishing and looking at doing long term. If you want to write young adult rom-coms and you want to write slasher killers,
might want to have 2 separate pen names.
Yeah, you might want to consider 2 pen names because, again, it's the same concept we talked about where it's building a network of who it's going to and who it's pitching it to whenever you have all of this information out there. And just like your personal information about Alaska fisherman stuff is going to mess up its rhythm, so is romance for, young adult rom-com. That's going to change everything when you're trying to pitch then your slasher thriller. And so it's just something to think about. I'm not saying it can't be done. There are plenty of authors who write in a multitude of genres, and that's totally fine, and it works. I find that a lot, like Neil Gaiman and V.E. Schwab. They write several different genres, but I also find that they write very thematically. Even though some of their stuff can be considered literary fiction, some of it can be considered fantasy, some of it can be all these different things. They're still very thematically writing, and they have it's just them. You can feel it. So consider that. If you think you can do that, do it. If you think that you want to build 2 different platforms, 2 different bases, keep that in mind. I wouldn't say tackle both right away, but keep that in mind and work on the one that is for the book that you are first trying to get out.
I agree. And a lot of people, we see it a lot, like, why do I need a pen name? Like, why in the world do I need a pen name? Because you're starting a business. It's up to you. You can totally use your name if that's going to help you. If it's not something that you would be embarrassed by or that you care if people who are reading you are looking up your personal private information online, because we all know that personal private information is online. I'm personally a very private person. And so I don't want anybody knowing who I am in real life, especially because I write romance and people get weird about romance sometimes. So I'm not interested in that. So I needed a pen name to protect my privacy and to be able, because this really is a business for me. This isn't something where it's like, I don't care who reads I don't want my grandmother reading my stuff. Sorry, Granny, I love you. But I really don't. So
why is that, Poppy? What can't Granny read?
A lot of things in there. I mean, it would just be like, poor Granny, my goodness. So, I'm not interested. And, a lot of my family doesn't know that I write, but some of them do. So it really just depends on you. If you have zero qualms about who the heck knows what you're writing, when you're writing, if you do not care, then it doesn't really matter all that much. But for me, it does. So if there's a part where this is going to become a business for you, and this might be a liability issue where you want to separate your personal private life with your business life, pen name is a way to do it. It's, it's a protection layer to kind of separate you from who you really are as to who you're writing as. So, because this is not your real life. You're writing literally, well, some people are not, they're writing nonfiction, but if you're writing fiction and you're creating worlds and stuff, this isn't obviously your real life. So you're going to have whatever. It's nice to kind of step out of yourself and be like, this is Poppy, and Poppy writes this stuff.
So you've picked out a pen name and you've Googled it.
Oh gosh, Google it, people. Google it.
Make sure that there's not a bazillion of them, or specifically in the genre you're writing, there's not a bazillion in that genre as well. Common names, names that pull up an association with it. You don't want to give yourself a pen name and find out it's a serial killer.
That is a thing. Like, you really do need to be careful with picking I know it's like, how do you pick a pen name? I just pulled mine. I like the name Poppy and I like the last name Minix. So I picked it. There's no other Poppy Minix in the world. I've Googled it. So that works for me.
Mine is personally tied, so I'm not going to say how I picked mine. But if someone who knows me personally and thought about it long enough, they could probably figure it out. But I picked names to me that had family significance, traditions that went along with getting that name, things that were passed down in the line. I've seen a lot of people use their mother's maiden name. That's a really common one.
Using a middle name, changing a last name, changing a first name. There's all kinds of things. Just depends on how much you're attached to your name.
So you have a pen name. You've Googled it. You now are probably saying, do I have to do social media?
Yes, you do.
I'm going to say maybe. Here's what I'm going to say.
But yes, please tell me. Okay. I would like to know this.
You should see the skeptical bring it bitch face that I am getting right now. Oh my goodness.
Eyebrow is raised and ready.
Okay. So here's the deal with social media. You're not doing social media because you have to have social media. That's not what it's about. The point of social media is to have an author platform. What is an author platform?
Yes.
Okay. So an author platform is basically the concept behind it, and how it started was that you have basically a group that already knows you. So when an agent or a publisher is looking at you, you come with a built-in fan base, which makes you more appealing and a better gamble because they're investing money into you and your product. So there's a higher percentage that there's going to be better sales because you already have a following. Those are really high bars to set. Getting a following that is noticeable to a publisher, I think somewhere along the way, an author platform has morphed and developed into something that's more realistic, because the numbers that you have to have in your social media for a publisher to even care is at least 6 figures.
Oh, that's good to know.
You might get away with a high 5. Otherwise, it doesn't even really matter. They will check. So this is something to be aware of too. When Poppy was saying, make sure you clean up your social media accounts. If you are deciding you're going a traditional path, and a lot of times as we're going through this, you're going to have to think about if you want to go a traditional path for publishing or self-publishing. But if you're going traditional publishing, they're always going to look up your personal name and your pen name on your social media accounts and anywhere online to check they're not working with someone who's a huge, I'm this salmon fisherman who comes in and is saying I'm an expert on young adult rom-com spy thriller in the jungle. And they're going to be like, you're a dude on a boat fishing. And then I'm also posting on social media all these political beliefs that are super, super strong and extreme. And so much so that they're alienating a huge part of the population that would be important for the book sales.
Or maybe you're just being a dick.
Yeah, that could be too. Or maybe I'm trolling young chicks because I'm by myself on this boat all the time. And so I'm trolling all these young girls that I'm writing about.
Cass officially has a new character. Everyone, step back. She's got a new character. We're good.
I don't really think a lot of agents are going to be thrilled by the matchup of this information. And I feel like now I'm saying hide your creepy, horrible side. What I really want to say is please don't be creepy and horrible and trolling young girls.
If your personal blog is basically berating books and authors, you're probably not going to do very well in the industry. So it's just a thought, but it's
well, and here's why, though. It's not because you have to be this morally perfect person.
No, gosh, no.
It's okay to be opinionated and have strong opinions and beliefs and things that you stand by. The thing is, though, is that if you're berating everyone and you're constantly railing everything and exploding everything,
you're hard to work with. That's very much the case.
And when an agent or a publisher is looking at doing a contract with you, they're looking at a business partnership, especially any of them that's long-term. They're always hoping for more than one book from you. They always want it to be a long-term relationship where it's constantly more books and everyone's
Yeah.
constantly making money. If you're hard to work with, that's very unappealing to work
Yeah.
with you long term.
If you're going to cause like a big stink and a big problem and you're going to like poke at everybody and it's not going to be pretty. Ooh. I mean, it's going to take the right publisher for you. So in the right genre, you know, if you're satire and you're poking fun at everybody and that's your job, then cool. And you need to find that publisher for you. But if you're not, oof.
Okay. So social media, clean it up, be aware of it, using it as a platform. Okay.
Yes.
So we're back to the platform. We realized that we're not going to be able to produce the numbers that publishers really look at for social media followings, right?
Because we're starting out and we're all new and we're just going with it.
So what's the freaking point of this? What does it matter? Well, here's the deal. The industry has changed a lot, and so it's not the same anymore where you just write a book and hand it over. The editor does it, the publisher handles it, and that's it. It doesn't work that way anymore. Even if you're like, I'm only doing traditional publishing, I'm not doing self-publishing, you cannot just hand it over and be done with it. They need a partnership. They need someone who is going to help promote the book, who's going to help market it, who is understanding of that stuff. And if you are nowhere online, that's a red flag. So if they see someone who's online and actively trying, and here's the other thing I see people do. Like, okay, I'm going to do this. I'm on an author platform. So like, okay, I build a website. I am doing a blog. I'm on Twitter. I'm on Facebook. I'm on Instagram. I am pushing my Goodreads. I am doing Pinterest. I'm doing TikTok videos. Okay. Wow.
When are you writing? Because whoa.
Here's the thing though. If you spread yourself thin and you're doing 8 different things, you're doing a tiny little bit on each and you're really not having an effect. So if we're looking at this as a time management thing, I had seen a talk by, I have notes. I'm actually going to put a link to her website for you guys because she does an email list that's really great. Her name is Sandra Beckwith. She does the buildbookbuzz.com. Some of her stuff I love. Some of it I'm like, it feels a little outdated. You'll pick through it, whatever you like. She has a free email that you can subscribe to, and she sends out emails about marketing, about how to get yourself out there on social media, how to promote your book, all of that stuff she talks about. And I went to, on a panel, a talk where she spoke on an author platform, and she talked about how if you have a chair that you're sitting in, and it has one peg to sit on, it's going to fall down when you sit on it, right? You need at least 3 pillars to sit on for the chair.
I like that.
But you need them like the size of the pegs of the chair. They need to be nice and thick, right? So if you have 8 of them, but they're like the width of a toothpick, chair's still going to fall down. So we need to have like decent legs on this chair, and we need at least 3. 3 is like the rule. I've seen it a couple places for building a platform. You pick 3 things that you focus on, and it can be any of those things that we listed. It can be, there's like 1,000.
Gosh, there's so many. It just depends on what you like. I mean, what are you going to keep up with?
Well, what you like, and also what genre you're going into, because I'm going to be honest here. I think certain genres are harder in certain platform areas than
I agree with you. If you're in YA, you might not do very well on Facebook, but you might really excel in Tumblr or Snapchat. So it just depends on what you like and where people are at. You know, there's not many people who are under the age of like 25 who are on Facebook at this point.
Well, and I think, I mean, I don't know. I was looking around at some stuff and some articles before we did this episode, and everyone still pushes Facebook and says it's the biggest one. I don't agree.
I think it's the biggest one for certain genres.
I think self-publishing.
Yes, and romance. Yes.
Self-publishing and romance is predominantly what's on Facebook. Of course, there's other things. Of course, there's going to be active groups for other things.
I see thriller occasionally. Yeah,
for sure.
Crime, lots of crime drama.
I don't know. I don't know. I find Facebook to be not what it was and not as
I
necessary.
agree.
I do not have it as one of my pillars of my author platform, and it is not something I even use, and I feel okay with
Yeah.
that. I do have Twitter. I do have the social media peg that's a part of my platform, and I focus on Twitter more than I do.
I'm really starting to
The
find a
others.
fond love for Twitter. I'm definitely like, I've been on that a lot lately. I really enjoy a lot of the hashtag challenges.
There's a huge interactive writing community
Huge.
on Twitter. If you're afraid of it, I know, take a deep breath. Here's the thing though. If you're one of those people who's like, I have not fully written my first draft, but I need to connect with other writers. I need to get out there. I want to pick a pen name. This is the really fun stuff that I want to do. I would say pick a pen name and play on Twitter. And here's why I would say that is because Twitter is where you're going to get to interact with a bunch of other writers. There's a big writing community. They're going to support you. They're going to encourage you. Of course, there's butt faces on there, but there's butt faces everywhere, guys.
Yeah, I'm going to jump in here because I definitely, if you're starting out as a writer and you're starting out on social media as a writer, you might be thinking like, well, I don't need writers. I need readers. No, baby, you need writers because your writers are going to be your support system. They're going to push the signal. They're going to be your friends. You're going to learn from them. Like there's so much amazing information out there on the social feeds of other authors that you can share, that you can join in on, that you can interact with because social media is social. I know that's crazy talk. It's not a place to blast your book constantly. It's a place to be social with other authors.
Wait a minute. That's the whole point of social media is to promote what I'm trying to sell you.
Right. No, it's not. Oddly enough, it's really not. I mean, of course you're going to have stuff about your book, but there's time frames. There's times to do that. And it's not constantly. It's not bombarding people with your stuff. That's not fun. I did that at first because I didn't know what else to do. I'm like, here's my book. Here's my book. Here's my book. Here's my book. That doesn't go well. Y'all, that does not go well.
And because there's so many books out there. There's so many people that here's my book, here's my book, here's my book. I'm more interested in engaging and talking with someone and hearing about their process or hearing something quirky about writing that they're dealing with. Or I don't know, I look for stuff too that when I'm looking as a reader and not a writer, I look for fun, quirky stuff about the books, about the writers, about things like that. And if they share something quirky about their day and the way they write it and their perspective on it, I'll be like, wait a minute, what do they write?
Right?
They're funny.
Yes.
I organically go look for them then, which is kind of the goal is you want people to, I guess you're selling yourself. So in selling yourself, you have to decide what your strong suits are. And it may not be Twitter. You may not enjoy putting little tidbits of words because you just aren't snappy. You're one of those writers who sits and thinks forever on your lines and reworks them, and you come out with like the most award-winning beautiful prose in the entire world. That's awesome, but it's going to take you so long for a single tweet, and it may not even get very far there at first, and so like that's just time consuming.
It's going to give you anxiety if not everyone in the world loves it and tweets it.
So I would definitely look at if you're a person who likes to take your time crafting something and really give out messages, and you could definitely look at blogging as an option for your platform.
Blogging, YouTube, TikTok.
Yeah, blogging is huge. So if you're okay being in front of the camera, vlogging is really big. The ones that don't have a person aren't quite as likable. I know we have a YouTube account and it's just our logo, but we edit. So
well, and we just throw that up there because it's just an additional portion of what we're already doing. It's not necessarily our main one.
It does closed captioning too.
Which is really important. Gosh, that's true.
So that was the big reason why we put some stuff up on YouTube. So look at your strong suits. I mean, if you don't enjoy, so maybe you enjoy taking photos. Well, that's going to be Instagram. Maybe you enjoy looking at photos and saving them and doing like brainstorm collage boards. That's going to be Pinterest. You can actually network and pitch stuff through if you know how to do that. So here's the thing. I'm listing all these things out and you're like, how? What do I do with it? First of all, I am not an expert in all of these. I did not take the time to look up specifically how to win in all of them. So you should go do that. If you're like, oh, this one might interest me.
Go do some
that.
social media search and what
Google
you like and what appeals to you.
I will say though, because I like you, I did find one article. What was he called? The
Oh yeah,
Kindlepreneur.
he's great.
Um,
Dave.
I'll put the link
Mm-hmm.
in the episode so you guys have it. And he's actually pretty good about listing each social media. I found a particular article and it's 2021. Also look at that too,
Yes.
especially looking at social media. Every article you look at the date it came out. It has to be 2021. Otherwise, it doesn't matter.
I mean, you're talking like 2 years at the absolute max. For 1 year and less is way, way better. But anything past that is completely, who the heck cares anymore? It's old news.
So I'll put that link up, and he talks about what types of people do well in each different type of platform.
Nice.
And then he also gives examples of authors who are killing it in that platform.
Very cool.
So you can take a look and get examples and get ideas of what you can do and how it works. Yeah, I will put that little cheat sheet up for you guys.
Thank you. That's very nice.
So an author platform is establishing who you are as an author online so that if you want someone to invest in you, so it's like if you have a business and you're looking for startup money, right? You have your deck that you do. And it's where people who are going to invest in you, they get to see your deck and they go through and see what your company's about. Your author platform is your pitch just as much as your query letter is.
I could agree with that. But you're pitching yourself too, which is kind of weird and to think about. But, because you're a person. And so you're pitching yourself as an author and you're not just pitching your work here.
Or you could just make a whole different persona. It's not you personally.
Sure. Yeah. It should pertain to your genre at least, though.
Well, that's hopefully your author platform does.
Yeah, absolutely.
And your pen name does, and all of that's in consideration, where you're pitching yourself as someone who does this type of writing and will give you this type of journey to experience.
Yeah. I still think there needs to be some kind of personality thing there. I really hate it when people lie to me. So I would have a really hard time if I found out that like an author was like, my favorite things, because I write about gardening in my books, is gardening. And then like they live in an apartment and they hate plants. Like I think I would have a hard time if I ever found that out.
Well, I don't think you should lie.
Be you.
Yeah.
You like stuff too. So what kind of music do you like? Are you a foodie? I know that one of the social media feeds that I watch a lot is Kevin Hearns. He loves bourbon and his pug. All right. So like he has got this awesome social media feed that is like food, bourbon, and his pug. And it is awesome. And it's just fun to watch because this is him. Like you can just tell he's like, I have made a drink and here is the drink that I made and I am psyched about it. And I'm like, yeah, man, I'm psyched about it too. Good for you. And it's like just so much fun to like watch certain social media feeds because like that's them. And that is such like a personal input.
Mine's Patrick Stewart.
Right. There you go.
Because he's like a big supporter of of pit bulls, which I am as well. But his voice, and he reads sonnets.
See, there you go, because he loves sonnets, and he's got a great voice. So that's what he does on his social media. How can you not love that?
He melts,
right?
Me. Oh my goodness! Yeah.
I love it.
I am a big
So
fan.
these are like things that you can do. It's not all about your book. It's about you. So if you love music and you listen to music constantly while you're writing for inspiration, post the music, like do some band call out.
And that's super cool and unique. Like do like inspiration for this type of scene.
Exactly.
Even if it's not a scene you're working on, you could just be giving recommendations out to people who are working on stuff.
I'm starting to I was sitting here thinking about this the other day because I'm like, I should post some of the weird shit that I research because some of it is just like so very, very interesting to me. And I'm like, I know that other authors will get a kick out of it because of the sheer fact that it's like, oh yeah, I learned about this while researching. How funny was that? Because I love stories like that. And I really like that interaction and that social quality of being like, okay, guys, I now know how cinnamon affects the brain when you inhale it. Like, I know this, like, I know like what happens when you smell cinnamon and like what it does to everything in your brain chemistry. And I just learned about that from research. And I know that somebody else is like, oh, you know what? I found out about, blood splatter against the wall. And here's how that's okay. That's kind of creepy compared to cinnamon and like what it does for your brain chemistry. But nonetheless, it's still research that authors do. And it's just, we all have that binding quality of like, okay, well, I just found out something new today. Guess what it was? And that's really, really fun. So doing things like that, like the stuff that you can talk about, it's not just you pushing your book, it's you being a person and figuring out what other authors are talking about as well and what binds you together.
It's It's another way basically to find a tribe. And then a lot of times too, though, when you have a tribe like that and you guys are, even as writers, sharing stuff with each other and talking with each other, when they get a fan, their fan checks out your stuff.
Absolutely. And when they retweet your stuff, or when they go and they share it, or they do a story or whatever, or an Instagram post about it, man, yeah, it really compiles. Be friends with authors. They're wonderful.
They are authors, agents, publishers, editors,
Yeah.
readers,
Readers.
librarians.
Gosh, yes.
All of it is just being a part of the industry. And then you also get to see all the things going on, the struggles, the drama, because like everything else, there's drama and everything.
Oh man, you do. I hear about some crazy stuff going on in the industry sometimes on Twitter. I'm like, what? Oh, and I have to go into it and look and see what the heck is going on. But yeah, it is just so very interesting. It's nice to support. I found like a lot of support, and I've been able to support authors that I love as well. And because there's certain, there's this big debate on like whether authors should be reviewing other authors' work. And I think that's complete and utter BS. I was a reader long before I was a writer. And so for me, one of my favorite platforms is Goodreads, because I like to review books and I read books constantly. I listen to an audiobook. If I'm not reading a book or writing a book, I'm listening to a book. I tear through books. And so I review them as well, because I want to support other authors and because I just really like it. It's just really fun for me. And so I found some really good stuff on Goodreads, but I also approach it as a reader. I'm not an author on Goodreads. Yes, I'm an author on Goodreads, but I don't act like an author on Goodreads. I'm a reader on Goodreads, because Goodreads is about reading. And so knowing what platform you're going into and knowing like what the expectations are there. Twitter, you're going to interact with agents and you're going to interact with other authors and publishing houses and stuff like that. There's some really great stuff on there that you can interact with, and that is expected and understood.
And you can also interact with, I'd say Twitter is heaviest in that stuff, but you can interact with those same groups and other areas as well.
Oh yeah, I agree with you. Like, I love Instagram for book bloggers. Book bloggers are all over Instagram.
A lot of the publishing houses are pretty hard on Instagram too.
They are, because they want to, they're showing these pictures and they're doing everything. It's all very visual, and that's really great. And there's other places as well, depending on what you want to do, but knowing the expectations of the social media you're walking into and what to do is just really, really helpful. But walking into Goodreads and being like, buy my book, everybody, you were going to get just nope. Don't do it.
So I kind of want to talk about something too that I think is going to suck to say, but I think it needs to be said. So let's say, all right, you understand what kind of writer you are. You're starting this as a business. You've picked your 3 pillars. You're building, you're making it unique to yourself, and you're showing your strong suits. And you've picked 3 different pillars that are fun for you, and you can express yourself, and you're enjoying it. You think you're funny. You think you're deep and emotional. You think you're sarcastic,
yeah.
Whatever you are.
Yep.
But you're not getting followers.
Right.
And you're not getting attention.
Yeah.
Here's the deal. Remember how in the beginning of this, I talked about algorithms?
Yeah.
And how they notice things? So paid content versus organic content.
Yep.
So if you are trying to go all organic and you're not doing any ads, you're not putting any money into anything, it's all organic, it's a very slow growth.
Especially in places like Facebook. You have to pay to play in Facebook.
And I know, and this is one of the things too, where if you're looking at articles where you're like, oh, they got all of these followers so fast, they did this, this, and this. What year was that published?
Yeah.
Because when a lot of these social medias and a lot of this stuff was coming out, you could get followers fast. You could, but now there's like media influencers, and there's, you pay people to like you and retweet your stuff because those particular people will bring in all of the followers.
Yeah.
So here's the deal. If you are starting up and you want to go nice and slow, go organic and give yourself a breather when you're not getting a reaction and the algorithms aren't noticing you. It will happen. It's just going to take a long time.
Mm-hmm.
If you need it now because you're pushing a book and you need followers, you have to pay.
Got to sink a little money into it because it's a business too. But yeah.
So, I mean, as funny and as witty and as well crafted and well planned out as you have done this, if you want it to go at a faster pace, you got to pay.
Yeah.
So, sorry. That's just how it is.
Yeah.
Anything else that you wanted to add in, Bobby dear?
Don't get discouraged if you don't have like 1 million followers in 10 seconds. I think that's been the biggest thing that I've seen that I personally also am kind of guilty of as well, is because when I was trying to figure out social media and what I liked, and I'm still doing that, like this is an ongoing process. So I wrote my first multiple books. I wrote and I wrote and I wrote. And then I decided, okay, oh my God, guys, I might be an author. And I didn't want to say that out loud, but I decided to go ahead and name myself. I got myself a pen name. And then I went and looked at social media. I opened every social media account that I possibly could. And then I started doing them a little at a time. I was like, I'm going to tweet one thing. Cool. Okay. 2 weeks later, no one's liked my stuff. Why has no one liked my stuff? They don't like me. Okay. Twitter's not for me. Clearly Twitter's not for me. And so I go over to Facebook and I do the same thing. And I don't know what to say. So I'm like, here's a picture of a character that I wrote. I think it's slow going. It's not going to be one of those overnight, these huge TikTok sensations that walk in and are all of a sudden they've been 1 million people have watched it and stuff. That's not you. It's not me either. It's okay. You have to have a base. You have to continue going. You have to slow growth and you have to focus your time into. Cass was totally right on saying that we're talking like pillars here, thick, strong, 3 to 4 pillars. You don't need that many, I guess, when you're starting out. You just need something. You need something to say that I am a writer and this is what I'm doing. But when you're having your pen name, it's really nice to claim those places too that you think you're probably going to be on. That doesn't mean that you need to pour all your stuff in there, but don't get discouraged that nobody's following you if you posted something 3 weeks ago and that's all you've done yet. So it takes time. Everything takes time. In the publishing industry, it takes a long time to do a book. With social media for your publishing, it also takes a long time to be noticed, to be liked, to get some kind of following, to get something going on. I mean, even now, I don't have a whole lot of following, but I have a pretty decent core base of like writer friends and people that share my stuff and I share their stuff, and I'm participating in some challenges and I've made some fun, social friends that way. And we're always liking each other's things and talking to each other and that kind of thing. But I mean, I've been doing this for years now, so I'm just now figuring it out.
So I'm going to be really real here with you guys. I am slow growthing stuff for Punch Keys, for my author name, for everything. We launched our first contest. Super excited about it. Put it out there. Guys, we got like hardly any entries.
We have some.
We got some.
Yeah.
We got a couple votes. And it's a slow growth thing. We're still putting ourselves out there. We're still trying new things. And just because that didn't bring in hundreds and hundreds of new listeners or attention on social media, it doesn't mean it was a total flop.
Yeah.
It was fun. And we also, our dear, amazing friend, Imogen Keeper, entered the contest and won.
Yay!
So she is going to be actually, since it was Emmy and we know her, she knows Poppy and Poppy's book. She's going to come on and she's going to interview Poppy. She is going to actually take over Punch Keys for an episode.
Take over. Uh-oh.
We are super, super excited about it.
Yes.
And so that's the other factor too, is the win isn't always in the numbers and the stats. Sometimes it's the connections and the relationships that you build doing it and the people you get to meet. And that happens too. This is your passion if you're writing, right? You love doing it. So finding those people is just as important. It helps you keep going so you're not doing this alone.
Yeah. Yes.
I don't know. Just give yourself a little bit of space and leniency when you're getting into this stuff and trying, and don't try everything at once, okay? Just try one.
Little at a time and focus on it, and don't give up when it's not immediate. Just like with the query process, where it takes sometimes a really long time when you're querying something, it's the same thing with social media. Just give it time and keep going.
Now, if you are actually killing it in social media and you have a really big following, pop onto our Discord and share some tips with us, please.
Please do. We would love some of that.
Yeah, we're all still learning. We're all working at this, and we can read all the articles we want.
Yeah.
But yeah, you can grab our Discord through our website. Pop in and tell us what's worked for you and what hasn't.
Yeah.
Because everyone is looking at how to do this, and everyone loves those tips.
Absolutely. That would be incredibly helpful, and we would appreciate it. And it would just be fun to hear about, because I think that it does happen. It just is really interesting to hear like what made it happen.
And what worked for you. What was the unique brand that you found for yourself?
Yeah.
Yep.
I love
all right.
it.
In the meantime, finish whatever draft you're working on, whatever round of editing you're doing, whatever sentence you're doing. Just keep going. You got this. Thank you so much for hanging out with us. And if you liked this episode, please subscribe and give us that clickable 5-star love.
Got writer questions or feedback? Reach out through our website. And until next time, make sure to punch the keys.